For 80 million years, the ancestors of the T-Rex were absolute nobodies. They were small, completely forgettable hunters hiding in the deep prehistoric shadows. Then, at the very end of the dinosaur age, something fundamentally changed. Evolution made a sudden pivot, and something went spectacularly right on Earth. A creature rapidly mutated into the most famous apex predator in history. But the shocking truth is, absolutely nothing about the T. Rex was normal. Everything that Hollywood taught you about this legendary prehistoric monster is a lie. We have been picturing the ultimate terrestrial killer in the completely wrong way. To understand its true terror, we must first examine its unbelievably massive size. We think of the megalodon as the ultimate prehistoric giant of the past. Or we look at deep-sea gigantism where extreme conditions stretch biological limits. Crushing pressure and freezing dark turn normal squids into absolutely massive underwater titans. A similar extreme evolutionary pressure happened right on land millions of years ago. Consider the massive Tyrannosaurus, the largest snake that ever lived in ancient swamps. It grew to 50 feet simply because the sweltering global temperatures allowed it. The T-Rex exploded in size because of a sudden biological terrestrial vacuum. It grew into a 9-ton engine of pure, uncompromising, and brutal destruction. But being this massively heavy comes with extreme biological costs that demand management. Let us start with the biggest cinematic lie of all, its terrible vision. We were constantly told it could only see you if you were moving. This is completely false. Its vision was among the absolute best on Earth. Think of the jumping spider, an ancient predator using incredibly complex layered retinas. Spiders see with a terrifying clarity that completely breaks all normal biological rules. Or the deep-sea dragonfish, seeing red light when everything else is blind. The T. Rex possessed massive, forward-facing eyes, giving it incredible binocular depth perception. Its visual clarity was literally 13 times better than a modern human being. It could see you perfectly clear, standing completely still, up to 4 miles away. If a T. Rex was looking your way, it already knew exactly where you were. Then there is the profound mystery of those famously ridiculous, tiny front arms. Many assume these tiny appendages were just a strange, careless, evolutionary biological mistake. But look at the bizarre anglerfish lurking down in the crushing midnight zone. In a world of starvation, it underwent a ruthless reduction of unnecessary muscle. Everything that is not completely essential gets stripped back to save vital energy. The T-Rex did exactly the same brilliant evolutionary thing with its arms. It did not need long arms because its massive head was the absolute weapon. Its jaw muscles were so thick that long arms would just be broken. Evolution traded arm strength for a bite force that defies modern biological logic. It possessed a bite pressure measuring nearly 8,000 pounds per square inch. It did not just slice meat, it actively pulverized solid prehistoric dinosaur bone. This was not an elegant hunter. It was a pure brute force biological executioner. But could this massive predator actually chase down a speeding modern off-road vehicle? Physics tells us that moving that much mass quickly is mathematically completely impossible. If it ran too fast, a single fall would literally shatter its skull. Like Tyrannosaurus waiting in the swamp, extreme speed is not always the best weapon. And just like a trapdoor spider, the T-Rex likely relied on pure ambush. It was an ambush predator, using calculated patience rather than explosive sprinting speed. It likely maxed out at a steady, heavy jog of 12 miles per hour. But you did not need to be fast when you were overwhelmingly biologically powerful. You just needed to be smart, and the T. Rex was terrifyingly intelligent. We assumed dinosaurs were basically giant, slow, completely unthinking, and purely instinctual machines. Consider the octopus, possessing a decentralized brain and unimaginable, alien-like problem-solving survival skills. This solitary mollusk can literally unscrew jars and meticulously plan for the future. Or the mighty sperm whale, a giant wielding a brain 6 times our size. Sperm whales possess deep, complex family cultures and speak in distinct regional dialects. The T-Rex brain was absolutely enormous compared to other ancient predatory dinosaurs. It had a highly enlarged olfactory bulb, processing complex sensory maps of environments. Its sense of smell was unparalleled, tracking wounded prey across miles of forest. It could track you, remember your behaviors, and potentially hunt in highly coordinated groups. This was a creature that could calculate distance, intercept routes, and plan attacks. Now, we must address what this legendary monster actually looked like in brutal reality. It was not a giant, green, scaly lizard marching loudly across a barren desert. Leading scientists now firmly believe it was completely covered in a thick layer of feathers. Think of penguins willingly freezing in the absolute deadliest winter on the planet. They use incredibly dense feathers to perfectly regulate their internal core body temperatures. The T. Rex needed feathers to effectively manage the intense heat of its metabolism. A 9-ton warm-blooded animal would easily overheat without a highly specialized outer covering. It likely looked like a giant, terrifying, overgrown bird of prey straight from hell. A feathered, highly intelligent killer that hunted with binocular vision and crushed massive bones. For millions of years, this apex predator dominated North America completely and totally unrivaled. It was the undeniable king of its complex, thriving, and perfectly balanced prehistoric ecosystem. To truly appreciate this dominance, we must look deeper at how biological evolution works. When environments remain completely stable for millions of years, creatures push ultimate physical boundaries. In the Midnight Zone, extreme pressure and darkness sculpt animals into terrifying new forms. The giant isopod scuttles across the abyssal plain, perfectly adapted to immense ocean pressure. The Japanese spider crab spans 4 meters, a mechanical giant stalking the dark depths. Deep sea gigantism shows us what happens when competition is low and resources stable. The late Cretaceous period offered the mighty T-Rex, a very similar stable paradise. Massive herds of dinosaurs provided an endless, calorie-rich buffet for any giant terrestrial predator. Like the deep sea, the environment allowed the T-Rex to grow completely unhindered. We see this exact same pattern with the legendary megalodon in the ancient oceans. The megalodon grew to impossible lengths because the prehistoric marine oceans were incredibly rich. It dominated the global seas just as completely as the T-Rex dominated dry land. But raw size is only one piece of the ultimate evolutionary puzzle of species survival. Consider how incredibly spiders survived for over 400 million years on this planet. They evolved deadly venom to liquefy prey and silk that is vastly stronger than steel. Their webs are external sensory organs, perceiving vibrations with absolute deadly mathematical precision. The T-Rex also possessed highly tuned physical sensory systems designed for absolute hunting precision. Its inner ear was perfectly shaped to detect incredibly low frequency, deep subsonic ground sounds. It could hear the heavy footsteps of massive herds vibrating through the ground miles away. It was a living biological radar dish, constantly scanning its ancient terrestrial jungle domain. When you combine this hearing with its massive olfactory bulbs, it becomes truly terrifying. It lived in a rich, three-dimensional world built entirely out of complex, invisible smells. This rivals the acoustic sensory mapping of a sperm whale diving deep into the abyss. Sperm whales use sonar clicks louder than jet engines to actively find giant squids. They use massive brains to process these complex echoes into perfect three-dimensional acoustic maps. The T-Rex used its brain to process biological scent trails into perfect geographic maps. But even with perfect animal senses, hunting always demands incredibly high amounts of biological energy. The anglerfish solves this by remaining perfectly still, letting unsuspecting prey come to it. Its jaw is a highly specialized one-way trap. Once prey enters, it can never leave. The T-Rex jaw operated on a shockingly similar biological principle of absolute prey retention. Its teeth were incredibly thick, shaped exactly like massive, deadly, deeply serrated railroad spikes. They were sharply angled backward, ensuring that struggling prey only pulled themselves deeper inside. And the crushing pressure it applies that our very own fragile time at the absolute top is completely, fragilely temporary. The Earth has drastically changed violently before, and it will inevitably, completely, drastically, physically, entirely change completely, dramatically, entirely again, leaving us to complete